Hey, True Believers. Chris Mack coming at you with X-Men Inferno number 2. And I will say that compared to issue 1, I enjoyed this one better, but it still pissed me off because I don't like what's happened to our X-Men. You know, we've gone over X-Men Legends, we've gone over X-Factor, and Wolverine as well, and we just seen what the X-Men were and now where they stand here in modern times, where they're just this separatist colony that doesn't care about anyone but themselves, even though they go under the auspice of saying, oh, mutant kind, when it's actually, oh, our own agenda, which, you know, I like the way Hickman is doing it, but at the same time, it's just like, leave my mutants alone. So with that said, this is Jonathan Hickman, writer, Stefano Caselli doing the art, Dave Carell doing the colors, VC's Joe Sabino doing the lettering. Here's everyone else working on the book. Of course, X-Men were created by Stan Lee and Jack Kirby. Now, opening it up, this is where I got a little agitated off the top, because if you remember from issue 1, Moira's talking about how the Destiny precog cannot live. She will not suffer it. So she wants all of Destiny's memory engrams deleted from all the backup Cerebros that are on each different island. But spoiler alert, if you haven't read Inferno number 1, pause this, go read it. Now you're back. At the end, Destiny is back, and Mystique calls for a vote for her to be joined to the Quiet Council. Now in issue 1, you see Magneto go to Island M, you see Xavier grabbing his Cerebro, and you see all these backups happening. And what I like is it leaves it ambiguous. I mean, you start to think, okay, is this who I think it is? Is this actual Xavier? So I hate that after all that, they essentially spell it out for everybody, like we can't figure it out for ourselves. And to me, even though it's kind of interesting when we get further into the book, but just initially having to spell all this out felt a little demeaning. Now, I feel like they maybe could have knocked these parts out, but at the point where Xavier goes to get the DNA from Sinister, I like that. To a degree, Sinister feels like himself here, instead of feeling like that, LOL, so random, my cape from Hellions. Ugh, that was horrible. But here, I like how Sinister's always one step ahead, as he always is. Even in the Age of Apocalypse, he was trying to usurp Apocalypse, staying one step ahead of him by making the new X-Men. So here we see Xavier asking for the vial, and he goes all dressed up, playing a part as always. You know, some people think you're clever. And then there's us. I love that about Sinister, how he always knows the machinations of what's going on. So then we go into the actual resurrection of Destiny. And I feel sorry for the way that Hope is played, because she thinks that she's actually being promoted to a degree, but she's being played. And that pisses me off, because Hope, I was really hoping was going to be bigger than what they did for her. And that goes back to me saying that I hate when they introduce a new character and you think he or she's going to be awesome, and they don't do anything with her. You know, she was supposed to be the mutant messiah from the Messiah Complex and Second Coming, you know, because she was supposed to alleviate what happened with M-Day, because she was the first mutant born after what Scarlet Witch did. And then she just kind of fell to the back, and I thought they were going to bring her back to the forefront with AVX, with the Return of the Phoenix, and then she disappeared again. And that, to me, is piss poor writing, when you bring a character in and then you don't do anything with it. The only time I think she really shined was when Cable took her to the future and she learned how to be a warrior. But once they brought her back to modern times, they shouldn't have done that. They really should have kept her and Cable in the future, because when you read those, the father-daughter dynamic between those two, phenomenal work there. Now, the next part that irritated me, when we've gone over Wolverine, X-Factor, and X-Men Legends, how the story is paced. You know, you get a little couple of thought bubbles, dialogue, some poignant moments, and action. Here we get a couple of panels, reading. This could have been summed up over pages and small thought balloons. This is lazy. I mean, look at this paragraph, 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 paragraph. That's obnoxious. That aside, it talks about how Destiny recouped and how she wasn't able to handle all these different precogs that she's having. But again, show, don't tell. We don't need to be told like this. That is ridiculous. And then it finally leads into where issue 1 took off, where there's a vote on the Quiet Council about bringing Destiny on board. And so there's a few of them, where Kurt votes in favor to please his mother. And then what I like is as we go around the board, we come to Exodus. And here's where the book got interesting for me, because then it cuts to Destiny talking to Exodus and how she was able to get in his head to vote yes. The same with Sinister. Now, remember the moment we saw where Mystique was disguised as Xavier. She goes, he says, we have to stop running into each other like this. After all, it's a bad look for you, dear. You want something from me? Pretending to be generous? What do you mean? We haven't seen one another since the last council meeting. Oh, that's good. I love it when an actor is committed to playing their part. So allow me to play mine and outrageously question why I would accept the debasement of myself in support of you and your demands. Illuminate, great thespian. Spell it out for me. And she goes, it's simple, really. The great men don't want you to do it, and they will demand that you comply. Well argued. So I don't like that how Sinister's a little more insane, but he's, in the hands of Hickman was a hell of a lot better than on that issue of Hellions that we went over. That was just horrible. And again, it kind of goes on. It feels a little long-winded, but it gets the point, and I wish that it's interesting, but then it starts to kind of drag on, and you're just like, shit, come on, let's move on. But anyway, long story short, spoiler alert if you've not read this, Destiny gets on the Quiet Council. And I like how she looks at both of them deadpan, and they both reflect in her helmet. Because Xavier wanted to call another vote. She goes, now you said something about calling another vote, Charles. Or do you want to take my word for it and how it's going to go and spare yourself a painful and pointless exercise? And then a beat. I think we're done here for today. That's some good storytelling right there. Now we get back into some more bitching with Moira. I don't like the way she is, because again, Moira to me always felt like the one heart of the X-Men. If you go back and read a lot of the older tales under Chris Claremont's belt, or Scott Liddell, or Fabian Nicieza, she had heart like Jean did. And every time she was in the book, it was always a delight to see her and Sean together. Now she's like, what do you mean Destiny's back? Why? How? And she even asks Eric, she goes, can't you kill her? And he's like it or not, I sit on the council. I'm not a child. I can tolerate a certain level of pragmatism when it comes to how things are run here in paradise. But I waited my whole life for this place. I won't defile it just because you find it expedient. And just look at the rage in Moira's face. You have to do something. Now, again, storytelling-wise, we understand where the rage comes from, is because she was burned alive by Moira and the Brotherhood. But still, to see Moira at this level of contempt for people, it just hurts. And then, of course, reading, show don't tell, knock that shit off. We get a moment with Sage. Let me skip past all this, because this was just kind of like some retcon stuff. And what happens essentially is they decide that they need to bring someone in to kind of help with the problem. So they rope in Emma. And Emma sees all her different lives and what led to the creation of Krakoa. And Emma says, you've been using me all these years. They said, you're the first mutant that we're bringing in on this because we trust you. And then Eric says, it's more than that. We need you, Emma. Your nation needs you. Of course, for the children. You've manipulated me for years, And now I can see what kind of threat a precog represents. Well, I'm a true mutant, and I sit on the council. So I'll give the matter a proper consideration. But my loyalty? You arrogant fools, you've lost that forever. And here, this is what I was talking about with Krakoa, where you should not be chanting for the villain. But I am so sick to death of what the X-Men have become. Manipulative, separatist bastards. Instead of caring about people, compassion, working together for a better future for everyone. What happened to that? Emma sees through the crap. Moira's completely lost. Xavier's completely lost. So is Eric. And then there's a moment with Colossus, and they say, in him we can trust. And one thing about Pete, I hate that how he's always done dirty. Colossus has always had a big heart. He's always the one that seems to get screwed the most. And that's why if you go back and read, I think it was during this Liddell era when they killed off Illyana, it was too much for him. He said, screw this, screw Xavier, and he goes and becomes an acolyte on Asteroid M. Not so much because he believed in what Eric was doing, but he was so deeply hurt by Xavier. And here we are, 2021, same shit happening. Colossus being manipulated. But he's being manipulated now instead of just having all these hardships like the death of his sister, death of his brother, being away from his home country. I just don't like what happens to poor Pete. It hurts. So overall, this one is a little bit more interesting. That there's some more story to what's going on, but I feel like issue 2, Hickman has a way of pacing himself, but for a book that big, let's start seeing Krakoa be dismantled. I see what he's trying to do, and I don't want it to be rushed because I talk about how when things get rushed, it's frustrating. But at the same time, when you have a book this big and a lot of it's talking, come on, let's get some fighting to kind of offset that. Just like the old books that we've gone over. Even hell, that X-Men Legends, there was moments to stop, collect yourself, do a little bit of storytelling, and then boom, we're into action. A nice, well-rounded plot. This is a lot of build-up again. There's no real substance other than kind of getting some behind the scenes. But I don't know. I could be talking about my butt. What do you guys think? Let me know down in the comments. We'd love to hear your thoughts there, as well as our social media pages, which I'll make sure to leave the links down in the comments. If you've enjoyed this book, we really would appreciate if you take a moment to like, share, and subscribe. Helps the club channel more than you could possibly know. And if you won't mind hitting that fancy little Krakoa bell next to subscribe, as I just said, you guys get notified. Come to the channel, and we just love talking with y'all. So with all that said, thank you so much for stopping by. Hope y'all continue to have an absolutely amazing day reading, and happy hunting, true believers.